오늘 한번 책을 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. 오래간만에 종이책이고요. 제가 정말 좋아하는 책이죠. 사실 이게 투자책이긴 한데 투자책이라기보다는 거의 자기계발서? 심리학? 네, 제목조차도 The Psychology of Money. 자, 한번 읽어보도록 할게요. 자, 약간 조금 짜증감이 있긴 한데 네. 읽어보도록 하겠습니다. Be careful who you praise and admire. Be careful who you look down upon and wish to avoid becoming. Some people are born into families that encourage education, others are against it. Some are born into flourishing economies encouraging of entrepreneurship, others are born into war and destitution. I want you to be successful and I want you to earn it, but realize that not all success is due to hard work, and not all poverty is due to laziness. Keep this in mind when judging people and coloring yourself. Therefore, focus less on specific individuals and case studies and more on broad patterns. Studying a specific person can be dangerous because we tend to study extreme examples, the billionaires, the CEOs, or the massive failures that dominate the news. And the extreme examples are often the least applicable to other situations and given their complexity. The more extreme of outcome, the less likely you can apply its lessons to your own life, because the more likely the outcome was influenced by extreme ends of luck or risk. You will get closer to actionable takeaways by looking for broad patterns of success and failure. The more common the pattern, the more applicable it might be to your life. Try to emulate Warren Buffett's investment success is hard because his results are so extreme that raw of luck. His lifetime performance is very likely high, and the luck isn't something you can reliably emulate. But realizing, as we see in chapter 7, that people who have a control over their time tend to be happier in life is a broad and a common enough observation that you can do something with it. Success is a lousy teacher. It seduces smart people into thinking they can't lose. When things are going extremely well, realize it's not as good as you think. You are not invincible, and if you acknowledge that luck brought you success, then you have to believe in luck's cousin risk, which can turn your story around just as quickly. The counterintuitive nature compounding leads even the smartest of us to overlook its power. In 2004, Bill Gates criticized the new Gmail, wondering why anyone would need a gigabyte of storage. Author Stephen Levy wrote, despite his incurrencies in cutting-edge technologies, his mentality was anchored in the old paradigm of storage being a commodity that must be conserved. You never get accustomed to how quickly things can grow. The danger here is that when compounding is intuitive, we often ignore its potential and focus on solving problems through other means. Not because we are overthinking, but because we rarely stop to consider compounding potential. None of the 2,000 books in Picking Apart Buffett's success are titled, "The Guy Has Been Investing Consistently for 3/4 of the century." But we now But we know that's the key to majority of his success. It's just hard to wrap your head around the math because it's not intuitive. There are books on economic cycles, trading strategies, and sector bets, but the most powerful and important book should be called "A Shadow and Weight." It's just a one page with a long-term chart of economic growth. The practical takeaway is that the counterintuitiveness of the compounding may be responsible for the majority of disappointing trades and bad strategies and successful investing attempts. You can't blame people for devoting all their efforts and what they learn and what they do to trying to earn the highest investment returns. It intuitively seems like the best way to get rich. It's about earning pretty good returns and that you can stick with, and which can be repeated for the longest period of time. That's when compounding runs wild. The opposite of this, earning huge returns that can be held on to leads to some tragic stories. You will need the next chapter. The highest form of wealth is liability. I'm sorry. The highest form of wealth is the ability to wake up every morning and say, I can do whatever I want today. People want to become wealthier to make them happier. Happiness is a complicated subject because everyone's different. But if there's a common denominator in happiness, a universal fear of joy is that people want to control their lives. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with who you want, for as long as you want is priceless. This is the highest dividend money pays. Having a strong sense of control in one's life is a more dependable predictor of positive feelings of well-being than any of the objective conditions of life that we have considered. More than your salary, more than the size of your house, more than the prejudice of your job. Control over doing what you want, when you want to, with the people you want to, is the broadest lifestyle valuable that makes people happy. Money is the greatest intrinsic value, and this can't be overstated, as its ability to give you control over your time to obtain, bit by bit, a level of independence and autonomy that comes from unspent assets to give you greater control over what you can do and when you can do it. A small amount of wealth means an ability to take a few days off work when you're sick and without breaking the bank. Getting the ability isn't huge if you don't have it. Yeah, there can be life change. 6 months emergency expenses means not being terrified of your boss because you know you won't be ruined if you have to take some time off to find a new job. More still means the ability to take a job with a lower pay but flexible hour, maybe one within a shorter commute, or being able to deal with a medical emergency without the added burden of worrying about how you'll pay for it. Then there's a retiring when you want to instead of it when you need to, using your money to buy time and options has a lifestyle benefit few luxury goods can compete with. But doing something you love on schedule, you can control and can feel same as in doing something you hate. When you accept and how true the statement is, you realize that aligning money toward their life that lets you do what you want, when you want, with who you want, where you want, for as long as you want, has incredible return. I said now that didn't make a big difference in my life. That was just money in the bank. The difference happened when I was 22. Part of what happened here is that We will use our greater wealth and buy bigger and better stuff, but we will simultaneously give up more control over time. At best, those things and cancel each other out. Okay, but it feels like you're working 24/7. Compared to the generations prior, control over your time has diminished. And the sense of control in your time isn't such a key happiness influencer. We shouldn't be surprised that people don't feel much happier, even though we are, on average, rich than ever. It was my dream to have one of these cars of my own because I thought they sent such a strong signal to others and that you made it. You're smart, you're rich, you're a taste, you're important. Look at me. We tend to judge wealth by what we see because that's the information we have in front of us. We can see people's bank accounts or breakage statements, so we rely on outward appearance to gauge financial success. Cars, homes, Instagram photos. Modern capitalism makes and helping people fake it until they make it a cherished industry. But the truth is that wealth is what you don't see. Wealth is the nice cars not purchased, the diamonds not bought, the watches not worn, the clothes forgone, and the first class upgraded client. Wealth is financial assets that haven't yet been converted into the stuff you see. That's not how I think about wealth because you can contextualize what you can see. And Lester B. Mellon once wrote, there is no fast way to feel rich than to spend lots of money on really nice things. But the way to be rich is to spend money you have and to not spend money you don't have. It's really that simple. It is excellent advice, but it may not go far enough. The only way to be wealthy is not spend the money that you don't have. It's not just the only way to accumulate wealth, it's the very definition of wealth. We should be careful to define the difference between wealthy and rich. It is more than semantics, not and knowing the difference is a source of calmness and poor money decisions. Rich is a current income. Someone driving a 100,000 car is almost certainly rich, because even if they purchase car with a debt, rich is at a level of income affording a monthly payment. Same with those who live in big homes. It's not hard to spot rich people. They often go out their way to make themselves known. But wealth is hidden. It's income not spent. Wealth is an option, not yet taken to buy something later. Its value lies in offering your options and flexibility and growth to one day purchase more stuff than you could right now. Exercise is like being rich. You think, I did the work and I now deserve to treat myself to a big meal. Wealth is turning down the treat meal and actually burning net calories. It's hard and requires self-control, but it creates a gap between what you could do and what you choose to do. That accrues to your overtime. The problem for many of us is that it is easy to find rich role models. It's hard to find wealthy ones because by definition of their success is more hidden. There are, of course, wealthy people who also spend a lot of money on stuff, but even in those cases, what we see is their richness, not their wealth. We see the cars they chose to buy and purchase the school they choose to send their kids to. We don't see the savings, retirement accounts, or investment portfolios. We see the home we bought, not the homes we could have bought had then stretched themselves thin. The danger here is that I think most people deep down want to be wealthy. They want freedom and the flexibility, which is what financial assets not yet spent can give you. But it is so ingrained in us and that to have money is to spend money that we don't get to see the restraint it takes in it to actually be wealthy. And since we can see it, it's hard to learn about it. Imagine how hard it would be to learn how to write if you could read the works of the great authors. Who would your inspiration? Who would you admire? Who nuance tricks and tips and would you follow? It would make something that is already hard even harder. It's difficult to learn from the what you can see, which helps explain why it is so hard for many to build wealth. Keep this in mind when you quickly judging others in success and setting your own goal. My observation is that, yes, many do, pass a certain level of income people for internet groups, those who save and those who don't think that they can save, and those who don't think they need to save. This is further to the first isn't simple, but it's a block. It's in building wealth has a little to do with your incomes and investment returns, and lots to do with your saving rates. A quick story about the power of efficiency. The same is true with our money. Investment returns can make you rich, but whether an investing strategy will work and how long it will work for and whether markets will operate is always in doubt. Results are not shrouded in uncertainty. Personal savings and frugality, financial conservation, and efficiency. If you view building wealth as something that will require more money or big investment returns, you may become as pessimistic. If you view it as powered by your own frugality and efficiency, the destiny is clearer. Wealth is just an accumulated leftovers, and after you spend what you take in, and since you can build wealth without a high income, but have no chance of building wealth without a high saving rate, is it clear which one matters more? I'm better off than you are, despite being a worse investor. I'm getting more benefit from your investments, despite lower returns. The same isn't true for income. Learning to be happy with less money create a gap between what you have and what you want, similar to gap you get from growing your paycheck, but is more in your control. A higher saving rate means having low expense than you otherwise could, and having lower expenses and it means your savings go further than you would if you spent more. Every day needs the basics. Once they are covered, there's another level of comfortable basics and the past, and there is basics that are both comfortable, entertaining, and enlightenment. When you're defending saving as a gap between your ego and your income, you realize why many people with decent incomes save so little. It's that they struggle against instincts to extend your pack of feathers to their outermost limits and then to keep up with others doing the same. People with enduring personal find their success and not necessarily those with high incomes and tend to have propensity to not give a damn what others think about them. Savings can be created by spending less. You can spend less if you desire less, and you will desire less and if you care less about what others think of you. As I argue often in this book, money relies more on psychology than finance, but saving does not require a goal of purchasing something specific. Gaining control over your time, that flexibility and control over your time is an unseen return of wealth. I'd say it's incalculable. Saving in the bank that earns 0% interest and might actually generate extraordinary return if they given a flexibility to take a job with a lower salary but more purpose or wait for investment opportunities and they come when the without flexibility you turn desperate. When the hidden return isn't becoming more important. If you have flexibility, you can wait for good opportunities and both in your career and for your investments, and you will have a better chance of being able to learn a new skill when it's necessary. To oh my okay. Okay. If you have a flexibility, you can wait for good opportunities both in your career and for your investments. You will have a better chance of being able to learn a new skill when it's necessary. You will feel less urgency to chase competitors who can do things you can't and have more leeway to find your passion and your niche at your own pace. You can find a new routine at slow pace and think about life with a different set of assumptions. The ability to do those things when most others can is one of the few things that will set you apart in a world where intelligence is no longer a sustainable advantage. Having more control over your time and options is becoming one of the most valuable currencies in the world. That's why more people can and the more people should include money, reasonable and rational. You're not spiritual. You're a person, a screwed up, emotional person. It took me a while to figure this out, but once it clicked, I realized it's one of the most important parts of finance. With it comes and it's something that often goes overlooked. Do not aim to be cold and rational when making financial decisions. Aim to just be pretty reasonable. Reasonable is more realistic, and you have a better chance of sticking with it in the long run, which is the one matters most when managing money. I visualized my grief if the stock market went way up and I wasn't in it, or if it went way down and I wasn't completely in it. My intention was to minimize my future regrets, so I split my contributions 50-50 between bonds and equities. The math was on paper is rational strategy. Day trading and picking individual stocks is rational. For most investors, the odds are heavily against your success. John Brown, who advocates and mostly owns diversified funds, once explaining why he also owns a smattering of individual stocks. I'm not buying individual stocks because I think I'm going to generate alpha performance. I just love think I'm going to generate alpha. I just love stocks and have ever since I was 20 years old. And it's all my money. I got to know whatever quite reasonable. Acting on investment forecast is dangerous, but I get why people try to predict what will happen next year. It's human nature, it's reasonable. Jack Bogle, and later founder of Vanguard, spent his career on the crusade to promote low-cost passive index investments. Things that have never happened before happen all the time. That's true. There is never a moment when you're so right.